more areas for controversy for the NFL, because on the surface, it's like I like the idea that the hip drop tackle has been banned. But as the NFL often does, it makes it too damn complicated to the point where it's going to be a crap show now trying to figure out what's legal and what's not. Before we get to it, here's John Harbaugh, not Jim, but John Harbaugh from yesterday before the vote talking about the hip drop tackle. Here's what he had to say.
I think taking the hip drop out of the game is the right thing to do. I think, again, Roger and Troy are on the right path with that. The competition committee is on the right path with that. It'd be good if it does pass, in my opinion.
Well, and he has a very specific reason to say that, because he lost a player last year for an extended stretch, a key player in Mark Andrews.
Almost lost Lamar in the same game, too. Almost,
happened
right?
Happened on Thursday night. Here's the problem.
Yeah.
And the rule is what the rule is, but they've apparently made a distinction between the hip drop tackle and the swivel hip drop tackle. Apparently there's an Elvis twist to this, where it's not just grab and fall, it's grab and like spin and land on the legs. And let me tell you something, there's the language of the rule. And the key is part B. The defensive player unweights himself. Can't we use English for this? Unweights him. And I've never even heard the word unweight before this rule.
It's a Simmsism.
Unweights himself.
They've been talking to me a little bit.
by swiveling and dropping his hips and or lower body, landing on and trapping the runner's legs at or below the knee. Let me tell you something. This is going to be a mess. And here's why. Here's the easiest reason why. I don't think this was off the record. When the rule passed yesterday, we pick a photo for every one of our stories. We've got a database with different services, and we go through and we find the right photo. And the photo that we've been using for the hip drop tackle for months, one of them is various angles of Mark Andrews against the Bengals, having his lower leg severely injured in that Thursday night game. So that's one of the photos that was used with the rule that the hip drop tackle is now banned. And Shereen Williams at the meetings and me in my lair independently heard from the Bengals, please don't use that photo because this is legal under the rule. This is legal. This is not an example of a violation. I give up, Chris. How is this not a violation? And how are we going to determine a violation if this is not a violation? Isn't this the whole point?
Well, we talked about this last week.
Isn't Mark Andrews playing a poster child of the hip drop?
Right. No. I mean, it definitely it is. But we showed these plays last week when we talked about it a little bit. And one of the things we talked about, or at least I brought up, as I said, this was one of the least egregious ones that we saw all year. Now, it was a big deal because it was Thursday night, standalone game, and we're all sitting there watching it, and that's great. But it's because of Logan Wilson coming in so low, it's one of the harder ones to see. We're used to the ones where, hey, the guy's up here by the shoulder and they bear hug and then drop the hips like that and bring it all down. We're used to seeing that look. This was one where, he's going in low and has an incredible upper body strength, even though low, to still kind of pull himself through and, like you're saying, basically get to the hip drop tackle, but maybe not with this new language exactly. But I think this is one where, Mike, you and I became a little obsessed with it during the regular season. You know it when you see it, right? That one's a tough one, but I feel like 99 out of 100 of the ones we've seen, like, there'll be hip drop tackles. Those will be penalties, and we'll know it, right? I mean, we've brought up other examples. That one there is a tough one, but yes, I would still think that's hip drop tackle with the way it played out.
I was doing some digging on this last week, and I heard some stuff that made me think, wait a minute, they really aren't as worried about the flags being thrown as they are about having the ability to go back and study frame by frame and find guys later. And it's like, I remember thinking, why are they
so worried
thinking it's going to be difficult to throw the flag? We know it when we see it. I didn't realize they were planning on trying to, as Jerry Jones would say, circumcise a mosquito and create a distinction between Mark Andrews' tackle legal and some of these others not legal. here's the video they played yesterday at the press conference announcing the rule change of examples of plays that are not legal, that are banned.
Yeah.
There's the pull down. See, that's what we're going to be looking for.
Well, what's the difference between that and the Logan Wilson one? That's what I want to say to them. Like, what's the difference? Well, he's 5 inches higher?
I don't know. That one, what's that? Yeah. This is not going to these are all violations, but the Mark Andrews isn't a violation. So, look, what's going to happen is they're not going to throw the flags because Rich McKay said it himself yesterday. He's the chair of the competition committee. The officials have to see all the elements, and we showed you the elements earlier. The swiveling, the unweighting, landing on and trapping the leg. Now, here's the Geno Smith thing on the sideline. They're just never going to be able to see this in real time and throw a flag. What's going to happen is it's going to be just like the rule against lowering the helmet, initiating forcible contact with an opponent. It's rarely going to be flagged. It's repeatedly going to be fined.
Yeah.
It's going to be fined all the time. And then our friend Derek Brooks, who you could tell when we had him on the show Super Bowl week, he was not looking forward to what's coming here.
Yeah, right.
Trying to figure out what is and what isn't.
Right.
And you're going to have a lot of these appeals because you're going to have John Runyon, who's in charge of figuring out who gets fined, who gets suspended, who gets disciplined for on-field infractions, coming to one conclusion, and then Derek Brooks or James Thrash, the two hearing officers, maybe coming to a different conclusion. But I think, Chris, the big takeaway, now I understand why I was being told last week that this is more about having the ability to correct afterward with fines than it is to throw flags in real time, because I don't think the officials are going to be confident they've seen naked eye, full speed, just like we were watching those plays of the violations. Wait a minute, how's that a violation? Wait a minute, how's that one? The first one, yes. The rest of them, I couldn't keep up with it. Like, these look like the Mark Andrews play. So this, I don't know why they just didn't see. I think they were afraid that it was going to be too broad and it was going to encompass too many techniques. So they're trying to find this line that they think they're going to be able to discern.
Right.
And there's going to be stuff on the right side and stuff on the wrong side. Good luck. I'm glad I'm not the one that has to figure out where that line is and apply it on a regular basis, because I'm not sure I could.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It is. I'm sure it'll, make things interesting on Sunday. And we're going to definitely have some ones where we're going to go, hey, that's hip drop, and, there's not going to be a penalty. And then they're going to come out a few days later, and we're going to go, oh, it should have been penalized, right? I think a lot of them, the referees, they've been around football now too, right? I bet you it gets flagged a little bit more than maybe they're letting on right away here. I do. The Mark Andrews one, I think the one thing that separates it is he doesn't unweigh himself because he's running with his momentum, right? The other ones that we watched are a little bit more like what I call rodeo hog ties. We're going to tie them up and just hang on and just bring them down that way. And those ones, I feel like the referees, as they get used to this, will be able to see this, right? But this is, this one's different. And this one's, it's a little on the fringe or on the line right there. And I get that. I do. But if we could go back and show, the rest of the tape that they released to the league
I just don't.
Yeah, it's really tough one there.
I don't see how that's not.
I know.
Don't see how that's not.
I'm with you too.
You said he unweighted himself. Actually, you said unweighs himself, so you made a Simmsism on the NFL Simmsism. He unweights himself there because that's how you're trying to get the guy to the ground. That's the whole idea. You grab him and you fall down. So now they want to see the grab. They want to see the swivel. They want to see the unweight. They want to see the leg.
Like that right there. Slow down, guys, if we can. Like even rewind these a little. Like, I mean, come on. Now, I don't know how anybody, and you know me, I'm all for the defense and all of that, right? And we're hearing coaches like John like that right there. That cannot be a part of the game.
That one's clearly.
Clearly.
When you throw the legs up.
We knew this was clearly. But yet it's not that much different than the Logan Wilson one. It's a little different, but he does hit him up higher and then just drops his body. And I feel bad for defenders. I know this is not going to be easy. It's not. But I think you're hearing coaches and people like me where it's just, hey, we're seeing people lose their legs and lose money and their careers aren't the same. This has got to go. And where I say it's a tough adjustment for the defense to go through these adjustments. I know that, right? But they've gone through this before. They're capable. And what I would say to a lot of the defensive players out there is just that this tackle, we can survive this, defensive players. This wasn't even a way people tackled 20 years ago. You can go watch a game in the 90s and watch John Elway and the Broncos, whatever. Nobody's ever brought down like this.
Right, because you could go in head first like a missile and blow them up back then.
You could, but some of these, like right here.
This is an outgrowth of the obsession with safety, the proper obsession with safety when it comes to the use of the helmet. This is the adjustment. This is the evolution of the game. This is a twist on the rugby tackle.
Right.
Apparently in rugby they had to get rid of this too at some point. I've gotten a couple emails about that.
They did because they were breaking
Chris,
fibulas and
here's
tibulas.
My point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Fibula, tibula.
Tomato.
You know who we mean. Tibia, fibula. Tibia, fibula, you got me all messed up now. Here's the point. I'm with you.
I know you are.
I'm just perplexed by how the Mark Andrews play isn't a foul.
Yeah, I hear you.
And here's my concern, to get back to why I selected my choice, in attire today.
Hey, Lynn Clark.
This now is another thing where if there's an official that wants to put his or her thumb on the scale and throw that flag and call a hip drop, when it looks kind of like one, but it's not, but I'm going to use my discretion to throw that flag. It's just another way that the officials can insinuate themselves into the game when they want to, or not when they don't want to. Because this whole thing that they've created by trying to draw that line, I don't know whether it's to appease the defensive players who complained anyway. They're still going to complain.
Yeah, it's tough for them. I feel bad for
them. Or they didn't know how to properly word it. Like, how do we – see, this is the thing they always struggle with. We know what we want out of the game, but how do we properly word it? And by creating the language of the rule in a way that makes the Mark Andrews, Logan Wilson play on the it's fine to go ahead and do this, that's what's confusing to me. If I'm Mark Andrews, I'm like, well, wait a minute. They can do this to me again? To me, I understand there are some of these
a little
plays
gray
where
area here.
It is egregious and obvious. When you grab the guy and you throw your legs out and you're like, I'm hauling this guy down, I'm spinning him down. It's almost like a wrestling move.
Right.
Like it's a finishing move in the WWE.
Right.
Okay. I still think that the Andrews play should be something that falls within the scope of the penalty. And I think it's a failure by the league to allow that donut hole, because it's going to create issues with officiating, and it's still going to not solve the problem of guys suffering serious lower leg injuries because they're being dragged down in a way that their legs are being caught under the defensive player, the very technique they're trying to get rid of. They stopped short of getting rid of the full technique. That's what bothers me. I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
And the defensive plays, we were showing the clip, all these guys complaining. They always complain. They complained about the hits to the head and neck area of defenseless players. I wrote something about that over the weekend. Peter King had a great article in Sports Illustrated, November 1, 2010. Ryan Clark complaining, Kevin Mawai complaining, guys complaining about the penalties thrown when a guy goes in hot with his helmet and blows up a receiver. They adjusted, and they'll adjust to this. My question is, what the hell are they adjusting to? Because Mark Andrews, legal, all these other ones not legal. Good luck discerning in real time at full speed how to stay on the right side of the line.
Yeah, I hear you. It makes it. I would definitely like to hear the exact language that 345 or the Rules Committee would use for the Logan Wilson one to explain that a little bit. I would, right? Because like you're saying, I think it's leaving a little too much gray area in the rule, and yeah, it's going to confuse people, and it's going to be inconsistent because of that. Right now, the defensive players, of course, they're going to holler and be a little mad and angry, and I feel for them. I mean, come on, man, it's hard playing defense in the NFL right now. It is hard, right? But, again, I think it was an overall objective person who loves the game and how we look at it, right? Just like a John Harbaugh, he loves his defensive players, but he's watching football throughout the league on a weekly basis, and he's going, wait, that guy's hurt. He's out for the year because of hip drop. Ooh, that guy's done for the year. Hip drop. Oh, that guy's missing 6 weeks. Hip drop. Oh, that guy was going to be a free agent and get $10 million a year. He's not going to get it now. Hip drop. So that's where, I hope the defensive players can understand that, but I feel for them. I really do. Again, the quarterback rules, the lowering of the head, yet the offense lowers the head and hits them all the time, as we know, right? And that's not quite as consistent. It's tough playing football in the NFL right now. But what I would say to it again is on some of those tackles, the hip drop was not necessary, right? That's where I would like to have a constructive conversation with those type of guys and just go, listen, here's a tape from 15 years ago, similar situation, similar angle, guys carrying the ball, right? And I know, hey, again, it's tough and we've taken away some avenues for you to hit, but here's how people 15 years ago used to tackle in this situation all the time. This wasn't a thing, again. And there was, hey, we tackle, we go, we let our momentum go, and we wrap up, and we take him with you. That's what we used to see in the old days. Now it's get there, wait, kind of stop for a second so I can bear hug, and then do that. And I do think the players will be able to make that adjustment. It's just, it's going to be tough for them, and it's not as a guaranteed way to get guys down. And that's why defenders like that tackle move so much. Just like Devin McCourty, right? He was all for it too at first. Oh, wait, you can't get rid of hip drop tackle. And then we started to point it out to him a little bit more like, hey, look, this guy's hurt, that guy's hurt. And he started to come around a little bit. I hope the defensive guys will come around too.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.